Good morning and welcome to our VENUECONNECT 2020 virtual session, Public Assembly Design in a Post-Pandemic World. My name is Erik Waldman, CVE. Thank you to IAVM for continuing to host VENUECONNECT virtually, although I was really looking forward to being in Long Beach with you. TBS Design is honored to be a sponsor and presenter this year. TBS has more than 50 years of innovation and impact. TBS Design is an award-winning architecture and interior design firm headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, with global project expertise. With a diverse, multi-market team of experts, TBS listens intently, solves creatively, and delivers reliability to make remarkable design easy. Founded in 1968 by Bill Thomas, Tom Benchelet, and Ray Steinbeck, TBS Design has a legacy of providing inspired design and close dialogue with our clients. All three of the men excelled in their areas of responsibility and worked to develop the people and practices of the firm to strive for excellence in every aspect of our work. And the foundation is still going strong today. We have offices in Atlanta, Los Angeles, Tampa, and Shanghai. The 100% employee-owned firm is a total of 138. Our pursuit of excellence was acknowledged by our peers in 2002 when we received the National AIA Firm of the Year Award, the 39th recipient of the annual award, and the first architectural firm in the South to be so honored. Having worked in 28 countries and 46 states, districts, and territories within the United States, TBS Design creates high-performance, high-impact environments that help individuals, businesses, and communities thrive around the world. So thank you all again for being here today. Today we're fortunate to have an incredible panel made up of industry experts consisting of show management, venue management, information technology, and architecture. These panelists are veterans and have relevant thoughts and opinions of the future of our meetings industry and how facilities should be designed in a post-pandemic world. Let me start by telling you a little bit more about myself and then the panelists. I am the Vice President of Venue Services for TBS Design, and for the last 20 plus years, my background has been in public assembly management, most recently the Senior Director of Special Events at the Georgia World Congress Center Authority. I joined TBS in January of this year and work with the design teams to give them a venue manager's perspective on projects. I also assist the firm's business development efforts. Now I'd like to introduce you to our panelists. Starting with Christine Klein. Christine Klein represents our show manager today and is an accomplished executive with more than 20 plus years experience in meetings, conferences, conventions, events, expositions, marketing, and sales. She has the proven ability to cultivate productive relationships with top decision makers and manage projects on a comprehensive basis to achieve company goals and maximize profit. Alan Steele represents our venue manager in today's presentation. He's President and Chief Executive Officer of the New York Convention Center Operating Corporation, which operates the Javits Center on Manhattan's West Side. Under Alan's leadership, the Javits Center has launched a historic expansion project that is adding more than 1 million square feet to the convention center, including more exhibition and meeting room space, and a rooftop pavilion and a 1-acre rooftop farm. Tim Worthman represents our network provider and is Vice President of Operations for Smart City Networks, the nation's largest provider of voice data and internet services for the convention industry. He has worked in the convention industry for over 20 years, starting out his career exhibiting at both the Consumer Electronics Show and the SEMA Show, and then transitioning into the technology services industry for the last 18 years. He currently oversees 8 facilities in the central United States. Emery Leonard is a principal with TBS Design and is currently leading the New York City Javits Center expansion project. With TBS Design for 24 years, Emery has focused much of his career on public assembly spaces. His projects include disaster recovery post-tornado Atlanta's Georgia World Congress Center, to the College Football Hall of Fame, to a new ground-up exhibition and conference facility in Nanjing, China. Thank you all for being a part of today's conversation. We're joining you a little bit differently today. This presentation is being pre-recorded. So if you have questions during today's presentation, I would encourage you to email them to me at ewaldman@tvsdesign.com. I will use this to, I will take those questions and get back to you as soon as possible or forward you to one of our panelists today. Additionally, you can find the videos, pictures, and more from today's presentation under the Files section of this session below. So I'd like to go ahead and get started today with our conversations with our panelists. And I'd like to start with Christine. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
So Christine, maybe you can kind of start off by telling us a little bit about the meetings industry, maybe most specifically National Defense Industrial Association.
Sure. So as all of us on this panel and our whole industry has been so affected since March, where everything sort of blew up. My last meeting was in March in Hawaii, and I haven't been to an in-person meeting since. For NDIA, that's 150 plus meetings and events, conferences, trade shows a year. So for us, the challenging part is changing and adapting to this environment that we're facing now. Many associations out there are struggling. They're losing members, they're losing revenue. And of course, our industry partners, our hotels, our venues, they're losing people, they're laying off people, people are furloughed. What I'm finding out now, what do we do next? So we're in the current phase of just trying to decide when we meet in person again. We do not have anything through the end of February that we're planning on meeting in person. All of our meetings and events are virtual right now. We've switched, we've held about 5 to 6 actual conferences that virtually that have been very successful, and we'll talk about that later. And then what do we do in the future? So I think there's so many conferences, especially the large shows. You mentioned Tim exhibiting at CES. I mean, they've canceled their show in January. There's so many shows right now in our competitor set that are looking through April that are still considering virtual. There are some parts of the country and some shows that are attempting to meet in person, but I think that all depends on the industry you're in, what your members are ready for. Half of our members, well, more than that, are still working from home. We're still working from home. So what is the right time to actually meet in person? It's
Good.
really up in the air still.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let me ask you, with conventions and trade shows taking place virtually over the last 6 months, 6 to 7 months, what can you tell us about some success stories?
Sure. I think for every organization's success is measured differently. What were the individual goals for the meetings or conferences that had to go virtual? For us at NDIA, our goals were to keep our communities together and have that connection and still get the business of the association moving forward. The other issue for us was how do we generate revenue within this realm? There are several organizations out there where revenue may have not been as important. That wasn't one of their goals, but it was important for us. So we had to think how we get revenue through the door. And then the last thing is how do we educate our members, especially organizations and associations that have to worry about CEUs and the medical industry. I mean, that's a whole nother ballgame that they have to worry about. We have about 150 meetings and events a year. When we came back, our largest event is in May. So that canceled probably about a week after I got back from my last conference in March. We had 5 weeks to put that show on, and success for us was getting the community together. So for us, it ended up being a learning curve for my whole team. I'm very fortunate. I have a large team, so I can pull all those people together. We met daily. to produce this conference. We learned a lot in that 5 weeks. There's so much more information out there now for the whole industry as people trial and error and move forward with their virtual events. The meeting that we had in May was great, but we've learned so much since then. And we've done about 5 to 6 major conferences since then. Some paid for, some free. Building a lot of content, which I think is a real opportunity for this environment that we're in. We didn't have a lot of content for our members on our website or through our communities. So for us, that's such a huge amount of information that we didn't have before. So we're excited about that. We're also looking for every opportunity we can in this environment. Real opportunity to look at the meetings and conferences that we're currently doing and reevaluating them. So everything is an opportunity, and learning and growing and figuring out what does it look like when we get back in person again.
I think what you just said there about everything being an opportunity is a great way to look at things, post-pandemic, because it really kind of takes everything and puts it up on its side and kind of makes you, put things back together, and maybe you put it back together differently. As far as your staff is concerned, Sarah has been great to work with. So, thank you for allowing her to help us. So let me talk to you about kind of when meetings come back. So when the face-to-face meetings come back, what will be the biggest challenges that are faced from the meetings industry?
Well, for us, basically it's about risk. What are you able to manage for associations or companies? What is that risk out there? I think for us, especially the planning cycle is shortened. We're not signing contracts right now, or as many as we used to. The way we looked at moving forward for our budget cycle, we have a fiscal year that starts October 1st. The first 6 months of the year for us, the way we budgeted, it's all virtual. We do have 2 events on the books in March, but they are, well, I think one's going to go virtual now and the other one's still up in the air. But for us, it's all about contingency plans. We have dates, we have courses of actions. What if there's no vaccine? What if people don't want to get together? I think the biggest things is, when will people want to gather? There's always going to be people that want to get together in person. We're all meetings people. I'm ready for in-person events, but is that the right thing for your association? There's opportunities, again, that we found in our virtual events that we're reaching people that we've never reached before. So I think that as we move forward next year, who can travel, who's able to attend meetings, are the budgets still there? And we're hoping that bringing in a hybrid, which we did budget for hybrids for all of our major conferences. So we're hoping to attract those people and new people. And we found that we're getting a lot more media attention too. People are signing up that couldn't necessarily travel to our events, so they are participating virtually, which is good. And we're hoping that hybrid portion of our events moving forward, they will still participate. And internationally too, that's a real benefit for all of us, I think, is getting our international partners to attend our meetings virtually.
Yeah, I think when we talk about, best practices from just the virtual presence, I think you kind of hit on being able to hit people deeper in an organization that you typically wouldn't have hit or been able to engage with, beforehand. Maybe kind of elaborate a little bit more. What are some of the other best practices that you think you've learned from the virtual model?
For us, being flexible, things will happen, as we all know, that you didn't plan for. So be flexible. There are things behind the scenes, just like a regular in-person meetings, that no one will see. So just working through those, keeping a calm head, moving yourself forward. Timing's important. I think the more time you have to plan for your events is critical. 5 weeks was not enough, but we managed to pull it off our first event. We've learned from that. I think training is very important. We're keeping, now it's like a 10-page PowerPoint of all the things that we've learned along the way. One of them is, it's minor, but speakers don't show up for speaker rehearsals, but they'll show up for a speaker training. And it's using those right words and what you find along the way. Like I said, I have a big team. We assign a lot of staff to our virtual events, which is not as many as we assign in person. There's so many moving pieces to the virtual events that we're fortunate that we can do a lot of cross-team cultivation and training and working with other groups that we don't normally work with in-house, which is fantastic. And then the last thing I would say is communicate, over-communicate. The more you can get out to your members, attendees, speakers, moderators, exhibitors, sponsors, the more successful your event will be.
That's great. Well, Christine, thank you for your comments today. And certainly from the show manager's perspective, it's always great to hear and I think really resonates with a lot of folks that are watching today who are managing these public assembly facilities, these convention centers of all sizes, not to mention stadiums and arenas. So certainly thanks for your comments.
Welcome.
Our next guest is going to be Alan. And before we start talking to Alan, I do want to share a quick video with you that kind of talks about the Javits Center and the new broadcast studio.
Hi, I'm Alan Steele, President and CEO of the Javits Center, and I'm talking to you today from the Crystal Palace of the Javits Center. I'm going to take my mask off because we're all appropriately socially distanced here and everyone's wearing a mask, including Senator Javits. I want to talk to you a little bit today about where we are. We're continuing to work with government to ensure that we can open for business as soon as possible. In the meantime, we're standing by just in case there should be any upsurge in COVID during the winter of 2021. Construction roundabout us is continuing apace. We're seeing many new buildings, including our own expansion, which is on schedule to be opening in the spring of 2021. In the meantime, and before that happens, I want to talk to you a little bit about our latest innovation, which is the Javits Broadcast Studio, the largest broadcast studio in New York City. We've put a package together that would allow you to become a professional producer of quality performance programming. When you come to Javits, you'll find you have everything you need, from camera crews to screens to editing. Everything is here, and we're doing our first filming program.
Well, I think many of us have had a pretty incredible experience during this pandemic, and perhaps none as challenging as the Javits Center. We're pleased to be the first to use the Javits Broadcast Studio. Getting into this, I honestly didn't know what I didn't know. It's been an incredible experience. I had no idea how much went into a full broadcast production. And the team here has just been amazing, and the production quality has been fantastic. I think there will definitely be a greater focus on the quality of the audiences that we're bringing together, but still really, really important to bring people together in person moving forward. However, having done this experience, I can't imagine doing an event that doesn't have a virtual element to it. And it's so great that the Javits Center understands that need and is supporting people with resources now, like the broadcast studio.
So Alan, tell
Yes.
us about the recent Javits Center expansion and specifically what we just saw, that amazing broadcast studio.
Well, I guess I should say, first of all, the two things are really separate. The expansion, when we designed it, and Emery will certainly confirm this, we didn't contemplate building a broadcast studio capability into the expansion. What we did was we built an outdoor space capacity. So we have a 1,500 person outdoor space with a 1,500 person attached indoor space. And then we have a 1 acre farm, because we saw at the time of the design that there was a need for that kind of outdoor activity space in New York City. The broadcast studio actually came about because of COVID-19. We were unable to do any events of any size, but we heard from our customers that they wanted to have virtual events. We talked to a provider about putting in such a setup and offering it to our clients at a very reasonable price, knowing that many of them had never experienced it before. And that's what we did. So now
as we look forward to the completion of the expansion, I think we're anticipating that we will see a continuance of the broadcast studio either in its current location, which is in the building, or perhaps in the new building, or certainly connecting all of our meeting rooms to a broadcast center so we can do much more of this kind of virtual event, the hybrid event, because of course we're all looking forward to bringing crowds back into the center again as soon as possible.
So yeah, so my next question is really on how clients are using the space, and then I think you started to get into it there. So maybe kind of elaborate more when you said about how things are being set up in the meeting rooms to talk back to the broadcast center, and then on the second part of that question, maybe also talk about how you're using it maybe in a non-traditional form. Are people that are not clients or not doing a show in your building able to use the space as well?
So talking about the latter point first, we're certainly seeing non-traditional clients, people who've not looked at Javits as a destination, are now seeing the value of a hybrid event. We have tomorrow an event where we have 50 people attending the event, which is the maximum we're allowed in New York right now. But it's being broadcast to another 350 paid attendees who are coming from across the world. This is a corporate client who has never been to Javits before. So that's opening up new opportunities for us. And what we've done is basically taken one of our existing event spaces, wired it into a control room so that we have a hardwired connection. We've made it a multi-purpose, so it can be a broadcast studio with everything being developed and produced from Javits, or it can be used as a hybrid itself, and events can be brought in via Zoom or other platforms and produced into a single video. So we've not looked to do any single activity. We've looked to kind of make a broadband capacity that can be used for any purpose that a client might think of. Flexibility was the essential thing that we felt we needed.
Great. So for existing convention centers, kind of looking to follow the trend, and and talking to a few of my former counterparts, that seems to be kind of the going way now. What advice can you give them for just existing? I guess we'll start with existing buildings.
Well, I think that you need to have a partner who has both a broadcast and a live event production experience, because as was mentioned earlier, these are very different events than the kind of traditional event we're used to producing. You need to have someone who understands how the client operates, and that each client may be very different from the next one. So I think flexibility, maximizing the infrastructure. So for instance, we put in a huge LED screen, which allows you to change backgrounds at any moment. I think all of those kind of things, including theatrical lighting and an experienced camera crew, an experienced production crew, we kind of built everything into a package because we wanted to make it easy for our customers to be able to use it.
So for folks that are looking to do new construction, so if you were to, I guess, start knowing what you know now, and you were to do another expansion in Javits, taking the same thought process into account, what would you do differently, if anything?
I think we would ensure that the backbone of our communication systems, our IT systems, was present in every one of our meeting rooms, and that it was all linked back to a single center where we could broadcast events from. So I think, we did not think of doing that. We do have a very strong backbone, but I think we would have to do things a little differently. And two of your subsequent presenters may have a better response to this, but I think we would have to do things bearing in mind that video and virtual events are going to be, at least for the short and medium term, a part of our future, and that they do offer an opportunity to reach out to markets, especially international markets, who will not be traveling to the United States for some time yet.
Very good. Well, Alan, thanks for your time today, and certainly your comments resonate with all of us. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And Tim, I think it's a good transition to chat with you, and we start talking about the backbone and the technical aspects of putting these events on. So let me ask you, Tim, when a venue is producing a hybrid event or a hybrid show, what is really needed to simulcast that production?
Well, as Alan had said, and I think that was a good segue into that is, um, the backbone is key to a lot of what we do. We've been doing somewhat of a hybrid for years now, so this isn't something terribly new for us. I think it's more of a focus nowadays. So typically, we're providing the wired service to these type of situations. So having a very good, robust backbone, which is the fiber component of your network, and a good copper network tends to allow for the kind of bandwidth that it takes to do video over a network. So
Yeah. So it kind of talks to my next question. Maybe you can kind of dig into that one a little bit further. But what technology should venues be looking to add to their wish list to make their building hybrid ready?
well, I think again we come to the key that the backbone carries everything. So we need to make sure that that's capable of happening all over the venue. Typically, have many points where you can pull data from the wall, and that's all basically set up so it's very easy to get to. I think nowadays we're looking to do what's called single mode fiber. It's the yellow fiber that you see, and it's capable of carrying us into the future. But we use it specifically because it carries a great deal of bandwidth. Nowadays, we're doing 10 gig, possibly even 40 gig in some aspects. So obviously, you need something that can handle that. From the equipment side of things, you need to make sure that your optics can handle that sort of thing. Um, and because obviously we want stability and we want redundancies built in. Obviously, if something happens and a circuit goes down and you're simulcasting this, you want to make sure that you have another backup to make sure that you go without a hiccup. Again, the same thing with what Alan had said as far as the video, having multiple strands of that to be able to do networking on one and maybe even video transmission throughout the building is another key factor to that. So, today we're spending millions of dollars on these upgrades, and we're typically changing them out every 5 years to make sure that we keep up with the technology that goes on. From a hybrid event standpoint, we can handle just about anything that we've currently seen so far, basically over that type of infrastructure.
So with smaller buildings, that may not necessarily have the budget or have done the type of IT improvements over the years, and it's kind of a hard question to answer, but would those buildings be able to do a hybrid meeting today?
I believe they would. As far as video transmission, and I'm certainly not a video expert, but what we're seeing is typically if you can do 20 megabits of dedicated bandwidth, then you can host an event like that. Typically, you get into more bandwidth only if you're doing multiple streams at the same time. So typically, like we're having very, very much now, it's one single stream of the event. If you're trying to add in additional fancy things like, flying in from somewhere else or so on and so on, that's where you get into higher bandwidth needs.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim, for your comments. Certainly appreciate that.
No problem.
Emery, so tell me what TBS Design is working on today.
Yes, well, we have projects that have continued throughout the pandemic. Obviously, Javits, we're working with Alan Steele and expanding his facility. We're also out in Las Vegas, making a bigger venue for them. We have projects going on in Savannah, Georgia, in Charlotte, in Denver, Milwaukee, studies in other places like Buffalo. And so there's a lot going on. And, when you get hit with a worldwide pandemic like this, obviously it changes the way you think about architecture and space and how these buildings need to function for our clients like Alan, but also for Alan's clients like Christine. And so we're hearing many of these same things. The word hybrid is coming up all the time, and making sure that in the earlier stages of these projects that there's enough infrastructure baked into the project to provide for something like this without having to, again, increase your setup and your takedown efforts, increase our clients' costs for rental of equipment. Making, as Alan said, a package deal, making it make sense making it work for the facilities. I would also say it's probably my role in this panel to speak to some of the other issues too, at least briefly, that we're trying to address or think about addressing architecturally, that I'll speak to in a minute. I don't know if you had another follow-up question, Eric.
Well, just, really the next question I had for you is, really what have you learned from the pandemic that you'll take to venue design? So when you sit in a charrette for a new facility, what are the things that are coming up now that may not necessarily have come up in the past?
Well, I would say in addition, if you did a word cloud on some of the studies that we're hearing from clients about, hybrid's probably the biggest word in the cloud. The second biggest word is safety, because getting people to come back to these venues, they're going to need to have a level of confidence and trust. And so there's a lot of discussion around mechanical systems, air movement, as we all know. There's a lot of discussion around hands-free and how to approach and maximize, and minimize actually the amount of times that touching is going on. Those kinds of that kind of thinking is altering the way we think about the simplest things, like restrooms, like vestibules entering into a building. Mechanically, what we're hearing, at least on the existing building side, is the general advice is do as much filtration as you can. Some of these larger spaces, obviously, it's a lot harder to, there's a lot more air to move around, so it feels a bit safer maybe than some of the smaller medium. Is around adding more filtration, whether that's through an actual physical filter or through the use of UV lighting within the ductwork. There's a variety of ways out there that are worth kind of investigating. There's always something you can do, even with what you have. But going forward, I'm sure we're going to, air quality is going to be, and it has always been rising in level of importance in how we address these facilities. Javits Center, Alan's facility, has the benefit of electric doors at many of his entries, and he can manage those much better. He's, walking in the door already, you're not, people aren't going to want to touch things. Restrooms, same difference. Although I imagine everyone's going to still want to wash their hands a lot more, so we might need more sinks. There's some very basic things that we'll need to consider moving forward as we design these facilities.
Yeah, I think on that note, one thing that, the architecture community does quite a bit of is research. So kind of maybe share some of the research that you're working on with the team to help our industry reopen.
Yeah, well, like all of you, we've been paying attention to a lot of the blogs and the information online, and we picked up on something coming from Christine's group that was asking a question. I know before the pandemic, there was a lot of talk about how to better utilize exhibit space, how to make it, again, that's like the third tier of client. Maybe if you start with me, there's our client, and then our client's client, and then our client's client, which is those renting the exhibit space. And everyone wants to make that exhibit effective. But the question here was, it's in a post-pandemic or even during the pandemic, the question was how many people can you reasonably fit in an exhibit hall and with what's going on. And it's a tough question. It's not like a meeting room, obviously, where you can count chairs, you can distance chairs, how many people you're going to let in. Maybe your local government tells you how many people during the pandemic, but after, how many, is gonna feel comfortable roaming around. So we have, and I'll try to share my screen here. We've tried to create some tools, and we're experimenting with tools. And what you see here is a 90 by 90 grid of 10 by 10 booths, and we're trying to make the computer a little smarter to think about how many people can fit in a space and interact still, maybe with their masks on a year from now, or maybe not, but can provide a reasonable enough distance to maneuver, and even thinking about how we may arrange aisles. We can do multiple versions of how this might work. This is just something, it's in the very early stages of something we're playing with, just as we get smarter about exhibit halls and how people interact in them. Not only to, you know, look to the future about improving how exhibit halls work and how you get a good penetration of your population and serve your exhibitors well, but also how that's done safely. And so we're always looking for new ways to look at the same problems and see if we can learn anything from it.
That's awesome, Emery. So thanks for sharing that. You know, I would ask also, you know, with TBS Design and really architecture in general, there seem to be projects that are coming up, but a lot of projects are being put on hold. You know, what are some of the things that the team is potentially working on to, you know, in response to some of the things that, you know, you're hearing, you know, like Christine's, for instance, from her group on IAEE, or, you know, other folks that we're hearing from IAVM and the different town halls and things like that. What are some of the things the firm might be working on to try to help the industry?
Well, we do have a number of studies going on, and we're hearing the exact same concerns, looking for built-in infrastructure to prepare for hybrid meetings, to do it seamlessly and flexibly. We're starting a project in Denver, an expansion of a ballroom expansion there, and thinking about how that might work and how the restrooms need to change. You know, restrooms have changed over time. If you think back, obviously, to a lot of social change and changed how we look and arrange restrooms, and now even more so. So this is another aspect that we're going to have to consider moving forward. And you know, it means some of these spaces are going to get bigger and maybe steal areas from other uses. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all comes out. But we're right there experimenting along with everyone and curious and interested to understand the problems as best we can as we explore other alternatives.
Great. Well, thank you, Emery, for your comments today. Certainly appreciate that. So before we close, just want to give the panel one last opportunity for any comments before we go ahead and break. Okay, hearing none, I do want to thank all of you again for being a part of today's panel. It's really been great, and I think the one thing that we have learned is that the future of our meetings industry is going to be hybrid. For the reasons Christine mentioned and the support that everybody else talked about today. So just one more little bit from TBS's perspective. There's a few areas that you can go and learn more about TBS. We will be in the trade show room. You'll be able to come see us there, as well as our sponsor page. And then down at the bottom, there's some handouts and files that we'll be including, especially a link to the video that you saw related to the Javits Center and the broadcast studio. So during the pandemic, you know, TBS has been listening and engaging in our clients and IAVM through many of the virtual town halls that we kind of talked about as ways to assist the industry. And a couple of those areas is helping with some of the venue reopening strategy, where we're able to kind of go in and help you kind of lay out your space with what the reopening strategy looks like, or meeting room setups and things like that. Our architects are able to help with that. And also we're working on a virtual venue walkthrough platform that allows venues to engage with show managers and planners to walk through their space, to be able to sell space, and also to be able to help plan events, from looking at concourses to back of house space and things like that. So we're working on that as a way to help with our industry. And if you wanted to learn any more about that information, please feel free to come visit us at the trade show booth. I think that's about it. That's all that we have for today. So thank you again, everybody, and look forward to seeing you all at our trade show booth. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.